I'm in the hospital and I met a doctor. They sent me to these different specialists. And one of the specialists, I was near the San Diego area. And one of the specialists was a military guy. And he said, you should cut that leg off. He looked at me for 15 seconds, man. And that's the first thing he said, you need to cut that leg off. And I got offended. How dare you? How dare you tell me to cut my leg off? I never. Right. You know, I'm gonna walk on this leg till the wheels fall off, you know, and you know, pretty much left his office in a huff, you know, upset that he said it, but he planted a seed. And I started thinking, you know, now I'm paying attention. I'm seeing people mountain climbing. I'm seeing Pistorius winning races against people with legs on prosthesis. And I'm like, you know, maybe I should do this. So
What's up, YouTube and Podcast Nation? Welcome to From Setbacks to Success YouTube channel and podcast. I'm your host, Quincy Benton. And guess what? I'm a felon. Not only have I served time in federal prison, but I've been divorced, I've declared a bankruptcy, I've experienced a house fire. In short, I've experienced some major setbacks in my life. Some of you too watching right now maybe have experiencing or currently experiencing some major setbacks in your lives as well. However, I want you to know that there is hope and there's a way for you to get through this. Through the content that you'll find on this channel and the awesome interview that I have going on today with my brother, Dr. Linc Johnson. If this sounds like content you would be interested in, please smash the like button and press the subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a part of our community. With that being said, again, I got an awesome guest for you today. So brother, I've been knowing approximately 30 years right now. This is Dr. Linc Johnson, AKA the left-legged legend. And Dr. Johnson, or Linc as we affectionately call him, has a phenomenal story about, you know, how he's just gone through a number of setbacks and challenges in his life. And we're just going to talk about, you know, how he's, you know, faced them, addressed them, and has moved on and pushed forward and started succeeding in life. Linc, are you still with me?
Good day, my man. It's a beautiful day. Great day to be alive.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So you're out there in sunny California right now. Is that correct?
Right now, I'm in Lake Las Vegas. So I'm about 20 minutes from the Las Vegas, 20 to 30 minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. And there's a lake out here, and they built a bunch of resorts out here. So I'm sitting in the 90-degree weather, enjoying this beautiful desert sun.
Oh, brother, that sounds good, man. Sounds awesome. I wish I was there to partake in that sunshine with you. But look here, man, we're going to get right into this thing. You know, I love to give content to an audience that's important. And your story, you know, really has captivated me. I know about it a lot, but I want to share with the rest of the world some of the things that you've gone through. And as you know, this channel is called From Setbacks to Success. But just give us a little background in terms of like where you're from, you know, what you've gone through and where you are today.
Well, my story, man, it starts in the mean streets of Compton, California. You know, growing up in Compton, my mother was a principal in Compton as I was growing up. She started as an assistant, a teacher's assistant, and then moved up to teacher and then into administration. But the most integral time, she was a principal in the neighborhood. So she didn't want to leave the neighborhood. She always thought that, you know, if you take all the good families out the good neighborhoods, what was left? So that left me as a self-proclaimed nerd growing up in this neighborhood where being a nerd was not highly valued. And it didn't come with sets of survival skills to survive. But, you know, that's how I learned my tenacity, learned my hustle from my mom. And I come from an educator family. You know, most of my mom's side of the family are all educators, teachers, administrators, superintendents. And so even though I didn't want to, I was reluctant. I got into the education field as a teacher, found a special ed class, started teaching special ed, and got into administration. I got my special ed credential, English credentials, and admin credentials. And when I was teaching in South Central. So I dedicated my whole career, man, to working with students from places like me. When we got to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, I felt like I was the dumbest student there, right? I had been miseducated, I had been undereducated. And so I got to Morehouse, I had all these certificates on the wall and top 5% of my class or whatever, GPA, honor roll and all of that stuff. But I didn't have the basic skill set or the knowledge, right? I was heralded in that district because, of very simple qualifications made me at the top. And so I got to Morehouse, I decided that I didn't want other students to ever feel like that. I was going to absolutely go into teaching, even though I told my family for my whole life before that I would never be a teacher like them. I hated teachers, right? They would,
Right.
on Thanksgiving, you couldn't have no pie unless I told them my 9 times tables, which I didn't learn till, 5th, 6th grade. But anyway, I decided I was going to go into teaching because there were students like me I consider myself inherently intelligent, that could learn these complex processes and all of that stuff. But I wasn't in like school. I was a class clown. So I like to disrupt class and everything. So I'm going to work for students that are like me, that are high risk from these neighborhoods. So I sought them out. I sought out the worst neighborhoods in Southern California, East LA, Compton, Watts, South Central, Wilmington, all these places, East Hollywood. So I would seek out those schools and go there and try to make a difference. Well, the first part of my career was making a difference like that. And then one year in 2010, I was working at Locke High School. Locke High School was having race riots between Latinos and African-American students. And I wanted to know, like, how is that possible? Y'all are like neighbors. How you fighting at school, rioting at school, and then living in the neighborhood together, right? So I decided I was going to work there. Well, at the end of my first year, I decided I was going to take my students out to go throw the football around, man. And right before the bell rung, I'm playing super hard. I've been working out. I felt like, I was in great shape, and you couldn't have told me back then that I was too old to play football or that it was bad for my joints. I thought I'd play it forever. So I go to jump to catch a pass and I tear my meniscus and fracture my tibia.
Oh, I was going to say, you said this was in 2010 when you had this particular injury?
Yeah, I was teaching high school special ed, science, and math. And mostly math, and just the end of the school year. It's the last Wednesday of the school year. Let's go out and throw the football around. I'm gonna show you young cats what's up. And fractured my meniscus, tore my meniscus, fractured my tibia. Simple enough surgery, like I was saying. Football players get it, skiers get it, tennis players, anywhere where you like kind of pivot or come up off your feet in the sport. And so usually people have this surgery, man, and it's a few weeks, rehab. And then you're back to normal. I have seen football players and skiers go back, a football player go back on the field in 6 weeks, or a skier be out, on a boat with Tiger Woods in 5 weeks. But that wasn't my story. What happened to me when they did the first surgery,
it was not a big
infection.
Deal. Yes.
Right. I wasn't. I don't know. I can't presuppose, but there was some, neglect from my perspective in my surgery. So I ended up getting a staph infection. And so I worked with the doctors actually that helped Richard Pryor after he burned himself. Those doctors were trying to help me get the infection. That group was trying to help me get the infection out of my body. So they, went in and tried to clean off the metal. That didn't work. They took the metal out. That didn't work. They cut my calf in half and wrapped the half of my calf muscle around so that the infection could get pretty much fed by my body. Instead of going into my bones, my body would feed it, so it would live happily ever after, in a sense. So that was surgeries 1, 2, and 3 where those happened, and those happened in quick succession in 2010. In 11, I had 3 more surgeries where they took the metal out, that left it bone on bone, and then they did what they call a manipulation under anesthesia, where they bend your knee basically to your ear to try to get it to memorize that motion. That didn't work, but what happened after that surgery, my thigh busted open and all the pus start coming out. Trigger warning. And so I thought it was gonna kill me, man. And so finally, I went to the emergency room and they did a swab and they told me it was methicillin susceptible Staphylococcus aureus. I'll never forget that. The man said it once, and I'll never forget that 4-word phrase, because that was the cause of all my pain and suffering. And so they did a surgery to clean it out, and finally it was infection was dormant. So they were able to go in and they sawed my knee out, because what happened during that interim time is my knee fused together. It was like one big rock of bone instead of two joints. Because of course, going through this stuff, I was still having to go to work, right? I was still thinking that I need to walk my dog. I need to do all this stuff. So I'm doing this stuff in immense pain, to the point where I fused my bones together. And I didn't even notice that that's what I was doing. It just hurt all day, every day. So then they sawed that out and they put in what they call a antibiotic spacer, which is a rubber cement apparatus, is the best way I can describe it. And it has antibiotic beads in there, because what happens with infections, as we're learning with all the stuff that's going on in the world, they're smart. They want to evolve as well. So what the infection learned in my body was to attach to those metal implants, or those fake implants in my body. So, and my body would even guide it there, so that if I come in close, even today, I don't have a knee anymore, we're getting there, but up until I had my knee, if I encountered bacteria, my brain, my DNA, whatever it was, would guide the bacteria to my knee. No, that's where the infection lives, down there. Whatever's going on with that knee, that's where the infection goes. So even, tonsillitis would end up infecting the knee, whatever happened. So anyway, I had this antibiotic spacer.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And the doctor, as an aside, and I don't want to talk too much, but I do talk too much. So you have to deal with that. But,
no, you're good. You're good, man. I appreciate it.
The doctor felt like he had done me a favor. I had this antibiotic spacer in there. The infection was gone. Now I could just get permanent disability and live off that the rest of my life. Like, why wouldn't you take advantage of this? Like, man, because I have 6 degrees. I got my doctorate. I'm not trying to sit on my ass. I got more than $100,000 worth of student loans. Like, I need to be out in the world. I'm not giving up because my leg is messed up. Take this out. So that doctor actually refused to take that spacer out, even though it was empty, the antibiotics was gone. He didn't want to do it because the state of California wasn't going to pay him enough, pretty much. And how he framed it was that he doesn't work for workers' compensation rates, and they have a structure to how to pay. So he was refusing to take it out because they weren't going to pay over that structure. So I went to several doctors, man. I'd go to the doctor's office crying, in pain, begging. And I went to Beverly Hills because I figured, if anybody has the resources to just do a surgery, it would be somebody in Beverly Hills. So I walk in this Tower Orthopedics. They had worked with some football players that had my same injury, but not the same nightmare afterwards. And so I went, I begged the doctor, please, man, take this knee out of me. I need a knee replacement. You're going to get paid workers' comp rates, but please. And they agreed. And so the doctor replaced my knee and everything was perfect. That was surgery number 8. I'm walking around, it would get locked up. So they did another manipulation under anesthesia where they had to pop it to make sure it keeps bending, because my leg would get stuck because when you hold your leg a certain way for a couple years, it stays that way. So they had to retrain my leg to work how it was built to work. So he replaced it. I'm walking around, man. I'm back out in these streets and living my life and doing a great thing. And my marriage was coming to an end. So in our last disagreement, my wonderful, wonderful ex-wife decides to kick me in my knee after 9 surgeries. So she did a flat foot backwards kick to that knee replacement, and my leg is already weak, right? I'm already at 9 surgeries on the same leg. And it popped the knee replacement out of place. And then I got it, the infection came back, but not the same infection. This time it was Staphylococcus lugdunensis, which is not as deadly as the other one that I had, but it was a nuisance. It would foam. So my leg would always be swollen and look like it's about to bust. It's a nightmare.
Wow.
And so I'm in the hospital and I met a doctor. They sent me to these different specialists. And one of the specialists, I was near the San Diego area. And one of the specialists was a military guy. And he said, you should cut that leg off. He looked at me for 15 seconds, man. And that's the first thing he said, you need to cut that leg off. And I got offended. How dare you? How dare you tell me to cut my leg off? I never, I'm gonna walk on this leg till the wheels fall off, and pretty much left his office in a huff, upset that he said it, but he planted a seed. And I started thinking, now I'm paying attention. I'm seeing people mountain climbing. I'm seeing Pistorius winning races against people with legs on on prosthesis. And I'm like,
Right.
maybe I should do this. So I find a specialist that's going to do my surgeries. And he puts an antibiotic spacer in there. And then about 5 days later, he told me that it was like a dirty cup that maybe had dried milk in it. That's what my surgery looked like. That he needed to go in and like clean the edges. When you're trying to clean a cup and
gotcha.
like, the little hard to reach places. He's saying that there's pieces of cement and there are pieces of debris in there that he needs to clean out because otherwise the infections are going to keep coming back because it's coated inside that debris. And
debris.
So anyway, he goes in and he does that. He cleans it out. He takes my leg apart actually and cleans it out with salt and water and power washes it. That was actually the most painful surgery I had because when I woke up, I was in a horrible pain. And then I was supposed to get a knee replacement, but when he opened it up, surgery number 12 was supposed to be a knee replacement. But when he opened it up, he said there were still marker for infection, swelling, a lot of white blood cells. And he was afraid that if they put the metal in there, then they would be inviting the infection. Because remember, this infection is evolving. It's finding a place to hide from the antibiotics that they're putting in those spacers. So they were afraid if they put it in there, then it would get inside my bone. And once that infection gets inside your bone and bone marrow, now they got to start cutting off bone. And it could be your leg, it could be your arm, it could be, whatever, wherever that infection gets to, so now you're cutting off pieces. And in the meantime, I'm going to appointments where I'm seeing people with half an arm and a third of their leg. And I'm realizing like, oh my God, I think this is about to be my future. Because to me, I felt like the infection was going to get in there because to date, out of 12 surgeries, I hadn't been able to really manage, getting rid of the infection, or they hadn't been able to manage it. And so I tell him, I go one day, I lay down for 2 weeks. So I'm bedridden. Surgeries 9 through 13, I couldn't move. I had to stay in bed. I could get up to go, defecate, and every now and then I could go take a shower. But every now and then, maybe like once every week or 10 days, I could actually take a shower, which was miserable. So I'm laid up for 7 months, man. I'm crying and depressed and going through all this range of emotions that I hadn't normally. I'm generally a happy person. But anyway, so I lay there for 2 weeks and I'm contemplating. They need to cut this leg off. I will be freed up if they cut this leg off, was how I was thinking. So I go to the doctor. My buddy comes to pick me up and I tell him, I'm going to ask him to cut my leg off, and I just start bawling, because this is the first time I had verbalized it out loud.
Right.
And we get to the doctor, but that was good because once I was at the doctor, I had resolved, like, cut this leg off. Now, we're at surgery 13, and he's like, I'm not cutting your leg off. Me and him, we had the same birthday. So I feel like out of all the surgery, and I had this personal connection that to him, cutting my leg off was a failure. So he came up with this idea that he would put a tumor prosthesis in my leg, which is when you have bone cancer and they have to cut off pieces of bone. They can fashion what looks like a spear with a knee joint, and they hollow out your bones and they cement that in there. So he convinced me to do this. Surgery number 13, I'm gonna put a tumor prosthesis in there. You'll be fine. It's gonna hurt. It'll probably hurt every day, he told me, but it'll last 10 years and you won't have to worry about this for 10 more years, Partially, it's a bad idea because I'm a heavy dude and I probably needed what they call now a mega prosthesis, what I've learned, rather than just a regular tumor prosthesis, because at the time I'm laid up 7 months. I'm probably 282 pounds, 287 pounds, and depressed. So as soon as they give me that leg, I charge out on it like it's titanium. It's gonna last forever. But there's nothing in your body, nothing that they could put in your body that's better than what you were born with, even titanium, right? It's still not as good. And so in 2.5 years, that prosthesis came loose and it started pushing a hole in my femur. So I was having real bad pain and I couldn't walk. So I go to the emergency room and they say that prosthesis is about to bust through your femur. And thank God that it didn't do it when you were out walking, because it would have come out of my leg. It would have broke my feet. It would have been a mess. I would have needed major surgery. So they made me stay off of it for 11 months so they could approve the surgery. And the pandemic came and all of that. That slowed that down. So surgery number 14, I go into this doctor, the specialist, and I go, cut this leg off. Well, that dude sends me to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and another doctor. I had to go through this process because he thought that I was fetishizing being an amputee. He thought that I don't know, wanted to have my limb cut off because of how I introduced myself to him, even though he knew my history. But I can imagine how it sounds when the first thing a person says to you is cut my leg off, you know? So anyway, he sets up this process. They're going to put a mega prosthesis.
I'm sorry, that's just weird. But
yeah, it's crazy, right? A mega prosthesis is when they put you a leg out of like titanium Legos, and they build you a whole leg. They cut off bone and post it into there with screws, and it's most of your leg. And so they did that, and this was supposed to last 35 years, right? And so I have this surgery, and I tell my son, I remember one day I told my son, you know, I'm so happy that they didn't cut my leg off because this feels so sturdy. It feels like I got my leg back. It's so good. Thank God that they didn't cut my leg off. Well, a week after that, I was finishing, I wrote an English 101 text. And so the week after that, I go to Colombia because I'm going to sit in a penthouse in Poblado and lay on the hammock on the balcony and write this book while I'm recovering. Well, my first night in Medellin, I'm in bed because my leg is hurting. I went to therapy and it's hurting so bad. And I don't know why it's hurting. You know, I must have overdone it at therapy. So my first night I go, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to put some ice on it, lay down. So I lay down and I wake up and I go to turn over from my right side to my left side and my femur breaks like a toothpick. You know, this is supposed to be the strongest bone in your body.
Wow.
But it broke like it wasn't even, you know, it just broke like a leaf almost. And so in Colombia, you like can't, there's no 911. You don't call 911. You have to know it's a person. I don't know the word for it, but you know, it's where regular people who own ambulances, you have to call them to come get you. Really, you got to know somebody who owns an ambulance to come get you to get to the hospital. So luckily, I met a firefighter there, and she was able to. She knew somebody that had a ambulance, so she had them come pick me up, and I went to the Hospital General in Medellin, man. And when I tell you, it's nothing like the hospitals in America. It was a concrete square. I was probably on the floor with about 200 of those concrete squares, no lights, no restroom, no TV, none of the things, not even a door, right? It's literally a square, but the fourth wall is a shower curtain, you know?
Right.
And it's about 200 of those on that floor. And I'm probably on like the 5th or 6th floor. So you think it's probably about 2,000 people in the hospital because we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So of course I'm assuming I'm about to get COVID, you know? And I'm about to get this leg cut off because at this point I knew like, this is it. My leg is going to get cut off. And so, luckily my insurance had some doctors from the Dominican Republic fly in and come pick me up. Now, here's another twist of the story. So I've had 14 surgeries. I'm realizing I'm gonna get my leg cut off. And when the doctors get there, they're like, we have to take you to Miami. And then we got to go pick up another stranded American from Guatemala. But there's a tropical storm. So we're about to, you know, with your permission, we're going to fly through the middle of this tropical storm to get you to Miami. But at that point, man, I told them, I don't care. This plane can nosedive. Just get me back to America. Let's nosedive in America. You know, just get me home. I've never felt farther away from this country than I did that day. And I have a love-hate. You know, I love the opportunity that this country provided me, but I hate, you know, some of the historical and systemic issues that we still deal with. So right then, I wanted to be in America.
Let me get back here. Get to the stage. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we ended up having to divert to Jamaica because the storm was real crazy. It was a little stronger than the tropical storm. But sitting in Jamaica, they're like, you know, we got this person waiting in Guatemala. It's going to take us 6 hours to take you and go back. So what do you think? And hey, let's go. Like I said, the closer we are to the Gulf of Mexico, when this plane goes down, the happier I will be in the afterlife. And so I took an Ambien because I didn't want to be, I wanted to be sleep, you know, when and if it happened. But luckily we landed in Miami, and I spent 3 days in Miami fighting with the doctors. They didn't want to cut it off. They wanted me to do this experimental surgery. But what I learned is, this is how I got in this situation is doctors see a case like mine, and I'm generalizing here, but they see a case like mine.
Right.
And they decide that here's a chance for me to do the thing that I've never done. Here's a chance for me to do the thing that I've only read about in my theoretical texts, right? And here's a chance for me to do this. So they wanted me to let them build me a leg from my ankle, detach my foot, take out my tibia and fibula, take out my femur, and build an entire leg out of these titanium Legos. And but if something goes wrong, they're going to cut my leg off at the hip, which is called hip disarticulation. And I know that I'm asking to cut my leg off, and so it might be worth the risk. But with a hip disarticulation, then with a hip articulation, you can't really have a prosthesis. You can have a prosthesis, but it's strapped onto you. It's not connected to anything. So my fight with them was cut my leg off right now above the knee so that at least I can have a chance to have a prosthesis, because I'm young and I'm single and I still want to go out into the world and travel and do all these things. And so for 3 days they fought me. They kept trying to convince me to go to see the specialist and risk my whole leg, which I wouldn't do. I text my kids and told them, and pretty much my older kids were like, you've been talking about getting your leg cut off for 2 years, cut it off, Yeah,
right.
My youngest was like, I would never get, she was 14 at the time. So it's like, I would never get anything cut off for me. But if you do, I'm proud of you and that decision or whatever. So that sealed it for me. And we have a Morehouse brother that's an amputee that I talked to. And I met another guy that's a bilateral amputee. So I was just really having those conversations. And so they sent a guy in there and said, look, I know that B sent you in here to convince me to let y'all do this surgery on my leg, but y'all are 0 for 14. Why would I risk my whole leg for y'all to be 1 for 15? Cut this leg off. I see people mountain climbing and running the Olympics, give me a leg so I can have my life back. And the dude laughed. He said, you know what, we're born the same year and I'm going to be the one that cuts your leg off. Keep telling them no, because I'm cutting your leg off tomorrow, he said. And it's like,
okay. It's about to go down. Okay.
So anyway, he on November 16, 2020, he cut my leg off. And initially I had that feeling of what did I do, right? What did I do?
Right.
Like, because I wasn't thinking about showering or, I don't know. I mean, all the things, right? I wonder how I'm gonna do these things on one leg, making love and all this stuff. And so I stayed in Florida for about 3 weeks. I had to go to rehab, and in rehab, I felt kidnapped, because in rehab, it was a whole bunch of things that, and I see why they did it, but they wanted you to be able to do before you could leave, right? I had to be able to get myself off the floor by myself. I had to be able to cook in front of them. I had to be able to do all these things. And at first, my balance was all off because it's like being in a one-legged race for your whole life,
Right.
And so for 3 weeks, they made me do that stuff. And then I came home, and then that's when reality hit, because here I am in this familiar environment, but in an unfamiliar form, right? And so I was scared. I was at that moment of, do I give up and just lay here and FML, or do I push past this? And one of my friends who's an amputee told me, he was like, you are gonna feel like that. You're not gonna want to get up to go get you some water or get up to go use the restroom, but get up, start moving around, and it'll shake off. And so that's what I started doing. I started getting up and hopping around. Now I hop around like a bunny rabbit all day, like the lady in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, when she takes her wig and leg off and jumps after him. That's me all day.
Right.
And I've just been happy. And so I've taken that opportunity to inspire people like you have, and to tell them that, it doesn't matter what's up with you. It don't have to be limb loss. It could be visual or hearing impaired. It could be trauma. It could be things that you're going through, but just keep moving, like keep doing it. And so I do videos under Dr. Linc J on YouTube. I do videos that I call the left-legged legend, which I came up in the hospital after they cut my leg off.
Okay.
Because one of my first things that I wanted to do was I got to go back to Colombia. I need to show the universe that it didn't break me, right? I need to go do a full trip in Colombia when I get my prosthesis. And it's a process, and we can talk about that later because I know I've droned on too much, but I'm a college professor, it's what it is. And so I started.
No, you good, man.
Yeah, I started trying to inspire people, and tell them that you could do whatever.
Yes.
And I'm sorry. And so and I've gotten those calls, man. I was ready to end my life, and I saw your videos because I lost my leg in a motorcycle accident or whatever. And so that just really inspires me to keep going and to do things like this where we sit down and talk about this so people can hear and understand and know that you can get past anything. Nothing should be able to stop you.
Well, Linc, man. So first of all, man, thank you for sharing that. That is an awesome testimony, man. And to hear you, knowing you so many years, to hear you, talking with so much energy and vigor, man. I mean, truly, I'm grateful that you've been able to, battle through all of this. But let me just kind of unpack some things because you did go through a lot there. But first of all, let me just start off by saying, first of all, shout out to Compton. I want to give a big shout out to everybody from Compton, out there in Compton. Big shout out to Richard and Venus and Serena.
Yeah, we were in the news. Beyonce was in Compton at the Oscars.
Right. So definitely big shout out to Compton. Also, big shout out to class of 1994, legendary. So big shout out to all you guys and and sisters over at Spelman as well. ABC, represent, in the house. But also, I kind of want to go a little deeper into some of the things that you talked about because, I know on a certain level, I mean, you're dealing with these things, but I want to dig a little deeper, man. I mean, really, what you talk about, I know physically, and I know the pain, all these different surgeries. I know there had to been some really painful nights for you and days and weeks, months. But talk about, some of the pain or the issues, mentally. You spoke with depression. Let me ask you an even more direct question. Was there any point that you just felt like you wanted to end it all?
No, I'm a little different than that because I told myself at a young age when I would go through adversity or bullying and all that, you kind of go through the options of how do I get out of this. And I told myself way back then, man, when I was a teenager, that hurting myself was never an option. I just love myself so much. And I think that I bring so much to the world, man, like for real, even as a kid, like I knew that I had something to give to the world. And so ending my life. Now I do engage in reckless behavior, like still at 50, but I know that I don't ever meaningfully want to, hurt myself. So as a young man, I never felt that way, but I'll tell you this, the biggest mental health problem for me is being an independent man that does most of the things for himself. I've been working 2 jobs since the 10th grade and went to 18 years of college. The hardest thing was relying on other people. That hurt my ego and my pride a whole lot because, people got to wipe your butt, empty your pee, they got to feed you, they have to, right? There were things that I had to rely on people to do, but also this anxiety, brother, that anything could happen. And I can't just get up and run. I can't get out of bed. I'm on crutches. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm on a walker. And, we're in America. It's like mass shootings and violence and all this stuff. And here I am, this big old man, but very vulnerable, right? And so that was the scariest thing, was the anxiety. Every day I think somebody was out my window, people are out to get me, somebody gonna get me. And so what I started doing, the first thing they offered me was pills. Here, take these pills for your anxiety. And the pills made me think that I started thinking that suicide was logical. I'd be driving and say, I should just better for my family if I would drive off the side of this cliff, because then they won't have to deal with me anymore. Or they won't have to take care of me, or I'll be out of pain or whatever. But because I talked to myself as a teenager, I knew that that wasn't natural. That wasn't how Lincoln thinks. So it's got to be these pills. So I took them for about a month, and then I got off of them, which was good because throughout all of this, we talk about addiction and stuff. I'm so lucky. I hate taking pills. I just don't like it. It's not a thing that I prefer to do. So pain medicine, mental health medicine, I'll take my vitamins every day or whatever, but I'm not necessarily a pill person. And so I get bags of pills, man. It's high powered. I mean, stuff that I could sell on the black market for money, but I would put it in the safe, because although I don't like taking pills and I never got addicted to any of that stuff, thank God, knock on wood, because to me, it felt like that's what they were pushing me to take stronger and stronger pills. Man, I had a pill you put up in your gums, and I used to call it crack, because I would not be myself. I'd be a zombie. And in 15 seconds, you put it up in your lip and it dissolves. And once you stop feeling that dissolve, you're on crack, right? Like, I don't need crack. Right. I just need to be able to sleep, right? So anyway, so I was fortunate, but my family not so much, because one of my children was affected by me having all those pills in the house. So in high school, he was taking my pills and selling them, and then taking the pills, right? And then so that was a whole process. So when you talk about mental health, those are the things, man, that really affected me. Like, look at what my injury is doing to my child. Look at what my injury is doing to our family and our finances and all of that stuff. That was the hard part to overcome. Actually, and I still have my days. Like, why me? Why I got to be the one with the fake things? But there's much less of those than there are days where I feel 10 feet tall and I'm walking on my leg, proud. And when people go, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you," like, no, don't be sorry for me. My leg better than yours.
yeah, no doubt, man. I appreciate you sharing that, and that's real. Because, and I can speak to that for me personally, going through all the trials and tribulations that I've gone through, various setbacks, I am, to your point, I felt the same thing. It's not it's not Quincy, man, to give up and quit and to end it all. Yeah. Although it was, sitting in that cell, with two other grown men, in federal prison was just, it was like, man, how much lower can it get than this? There was just something in me was just like, bro, you can't give up. You can't just lay it down and turn in your own chips and your own cards.
That's right. Every day above ground, it's cliche, but every day above ground is an opportunity to do it and get it done.
Absolutely.
We have to keep pushing, no matter what it is, because we all got our crosses to bear. It doesn't matter what it looks like or what it feels like. You got to keep pushing, because nobody got it perfect out here,
Absolutely. So I appreciate you sharing that. Another question I wanted to ask you was, it really dealt with some of the other setbacks that you talk about the injury that led to all the complications that were tied to it with staph infections and various infections, and then getting to this point where you had to make this decision to cut your leg off. I guess, and you talk about the challenges mentally and emotionally and in a lot of different ways. We did talk, I guess there are financial challenges that come with that as well. Won't dig into that, but I'm sure that definitely, being kind of incapacitated that way does not help your financial situation by any means.
Oh, man. Oh, man, you have no idea. You think about whole periods of the year where you can't work for 7 months, or after I got my leg cut off, couldn't work. I don't have no income. I was on state disability, but that's barely covering the rent. You might see my grandkids in a minute, but it's barely, what's up? It's barely covering it, so it's difficult to recover from it. So you don't have a job or whatever for 7 months, and you're on state disability. So then when it's time to go back, Okay. Yeah. You go back, and even though I'm back to work, it's like I'm in a hole that I'm not never get out of, but it feels like that, right? Like it's an avalanche because
It feels like that.
companies don't
Yeah.
care. I call my car company and I say, I got my leg cut off in November and I haven't been able to work. They don't care. They're like, can you send a payment today? Because we gonna repossess your stuff.
Right.
You cannot, and so
Straight
there's
up.
really no remedy for
Gotcha.
that. You're really just kind of stuck. So luckily, fortunately for me, I had a girlfriend that one day we were having an argument, a disagreement, and I was saying, I don't, we were having that argument where I was being a little arrogant, I don't know why you're acting like this with me because I'm handsome, I'm successful, I'm, blah blah blah. You don't even have $25,000 in the bank. Fortunately, she said that because after we had that argument, I started putting money.
Okay, gotcha.
So when all this happened, I was able to go to my resources, which was good, which kind of kept me afloat, and kept me from really, living in my car with one leg or, having those types of issues. And so, it's been tough. I get that's one of the things that still kind of emotionally messes with me is the money thing, catching up. As you can imagine, the medical bills are expensive, but I've been really fortunate to have the insurance that I have. They've covered a lot of it, many thousands of dollars of it.
Okay.
And, but also, I did a lawsuit after surgery number 4 when I thought I was going to die. I got a lawyer, and so they have to, we did a settlement where they have to pay me for the rest of my life, and if I die within 15 years of that settlement, if I die before 2029, then they have to pay my kids. But if I live to 2029, then we just it's a wash. But so I have little things like that have helped me to be successful. And of course, I've been working 2 jobs since the 10th grade. So right now I'm working 4 different jobs, a full time and 3 part times, and it's just what I do to fill in my time, and just make sure that I have those resources that I need to survive, man, and be able to come out here and do have a good time and enjoy Vegas for the weekend.
Absolutely. Well, look here, brother. I don't want to hold you any longer. I see like you got family time going on, but 2 last things. One, I want you to give, if you can, anyone who is going through something similar to what you have been, that you've gone through, or what you're going through. I want you to, kind of give some words to those people who might be watching right now. And then 2, I want you to, go back again and give us all the different ways that anyone who's out here watching, who wants to, tie directly into your platform, how do they go about finding you?
All right. So, I just, every day above ground, it's cliche, but every day above ground is a good day. Utilize your time and your days. Don't let what you're going through because it hurts or because you're slower or you can't do it or it's challenging or you can't afford it or you feel like you're too old, you got too many things to do, how many kids you got, all that. You can't let that stuff stop you. You have to, because for me, it's that pivotal moment where we got to decide, do I let this thing drag me down or do I just keep moving through this thing as if it didn't happen, right? Because I converted to Buddhism in China in 2012, Taoism to be specific. And what that taught me was, man, this life is what we make it, right? We're out here creating life for ourselves. And so that's what we need to do. And you can never forget that. You make you. No one designs yourself. That's from the poet Sean Carter, and so enjoying life and getting past these things, it's all up to you. And sometimes it's not just mental, but sometimes mentally I don't want to get up, I don't want to put my leg on, I don't want to go outside, I don't want to be this person, but then physically I just go ahead and do it, and so it's finding that motivation to keep going. And talk to me. I always have a smile on my face. It's very rare that see all my teeth. So like you said, you can find me at Left-Legged Legend everywhere. So Left-Legged Legend on Instagram with an _left_legged legend, Left Leg Legend on Twitter. Left-Legged Legend on Facebook and on YouTube under Dr. Linc J, but Link like Lincoln, Lincej, Dr. Dr. Lincej, and then there's 3 seasons of Left-Legged Legend in that and in my videos
That's
that I
what's
recorded
up.
of me all over the world in different places in the nightclub with no leg on, you know, and just showing you that you can, you know,
Okay, no doubt, man. That's what's
but you
up.
do. Yeah, yeah.
You can live
But and I
life to
also
the
want to say,
fullest.
man, I want to talk
Yeah,
to
with
people
one leg.
with backgrounds real quick, with 30 seconds. You know, I worked in the prison system in California for 10 years, and it's a business, man. It's the business of incarcerating people, and America is in that business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. In California, it's up there with Tesla, Apple, and Google, right? And so being inside and working in the belly of the beast and trying to change culture and change minds, it has to start with you, right? We all become incarcerated by something encloses us to something, and our system is built to do that because it games on 60-70% recidivism. That's the whole business model. If 6 or 7 ain't coming back, and then we capture the next 2 or 3 or 4, you know, out of every 10 to come fill in the gaps, then the business doesn't work. And so it's really about doing the work of, we can, you know, and where I worked, you know, people would celebrate their OG status, you know, and but that's not worth it. We really need to be honest
Right.
about what is going on there, and how hellish and negative and non-rehabilitative it is, right? And so that's the challenge.
Yes. You know, and I appreciate you mentioning that because, you know, there's so much, there's a bunch of evolving thoughts that I'm having towards just, and they're probably just things that exist, but true to form things that there has to be changes made within this system. It's just too many people being incarcerated for too long,
That's right.
and it's just not right.
That's right.
And so that has to change, man. I mean, there are truly, I mean, and a lot of folks don't say this, there are reasons why these facilities should exist on some
Right.
level.
Of course.
Because I mean, there's just some people who just they're committed to being who they are, and they're not going to change that, and that's not necessarily a great thing for society as a whole. However, there are much more situations and cases where people have been changed, they have been, you know, they're reformed or redeemed, and they're just sitting there, being warehoused for too
Because I
long,
think
taxpayer dollars being wasted.
that because America has this imbalance of the playing field, that because there's so many disenfranchised people from disenfranchised groups in there, they're throwaways, right? So it really doesn't matter, man. We'll have this conversation. I'm going to write the book, and then you invite me back, and we'll talk about the book that I write that is going to expose some of the inner workings, the business model of prison, right? Because as executive staff, I have the perspective of that. And so I think that you know, because of that, you're throwaway people, right? They're not valued. All lives don't matter, as it were, in America, right? So you know, we have to we'll have that conversation at a later date.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation on a later date. That's what's up. But Linc, brother, it was good talking to you today, man. Thank you so much for the time today. We always connected, man. God bless you, brother.